Tim, I know it is getting cold. We are both here in Canada this week on different ends of the country, but we're starting to get into the deep of winter. A lot of people starting to think about places to go away. I know there's a great place that you have been to a number of times now, maybe a bit more undiscovered destination down in the Caribbean. Can you tell people a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, David, I've been 4 times to Antigua and Barbuda, and it really is a beautiful place. I mean, warm, sunny days, beautiful beaches, 365 beaches, enough for every day of the year you can visit a different one, and I think the people are as warm as the weather. So, it is a wonderful place to get away from the cold weather.
And they are supporting all of our podcasts on Travel in 10 this month. So really want to thank Antigua and Barbuda for their support of the show. And we're going to be going down and taping an episode live in the island later this winter. So hopefully you can come along with us and learn some more about a destination that I know you've got to spend a lot of time at, Tim, and I'm looking forward to checking out for the first time.
This is a Voyescape podcast. You can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.
Welcome to season 12 of the Travel in 10 podcast. For those of you tuning in for the first time, Travel in 10 is where we give you concise 10-minute, we try and get into 10 minutes. Sometimes we stretch to 15 or 20 guides to our favorite places in the world. I'm David Brody. I've been hosting the Travel in 10 podcast since back in 2005. And for the last season, I've been joined by a good friend of mine, travel writer Tim Johnson, who has been to, how many countries is it now, Tim, that you've traveled to around the world?
Well, it all depends on how you count it. Official countries that are actually recognized by the UN, I've been to like 100 and 111, 112. But I tend to count places like Antarctica and Bermuda, places like that. So by my accounting, it's over 150, all 7 continents. So yeah, lots and lots of travel, and still love a new destination. Still love talking travel more than pretty much anything else, and of course, writing about travel. And so that's why I love being a co-host of this podcast and talking to you on a weekly basis, David.
And I think I'm like you. I use the Traveler Century Club list is the one I use as my sort of definitive list for tracking how many places I've been. And I think I'm just up over 50 now on that list, but still a long ways to go to catch up to you. But
50 is amazing.
it has been amazing to hit 50 in this past year. And I know that's really, as we get into these shows, we really try and focus in on places we've loved, places that have inspired us as we've been traveling around the world. Usually talking about places we've both traveled to on all of our episodes. And also in this past year, we have expanded beyond just the Travel in 10 podcast. We have expanded now to a podcast network called Voyescape, where we're bringing together great travel content creators from around the world together in a podcast network that you can find at voyescape.com. Shows on sustainability and travel, shows from other travel journalists, other great travel creators talking about their inspiring travels, doing great interviews, both audio and video content. You can find us on all social channels as well. And we've been really lucky. We've had podcasts hit #1 on the Apple podcast charts over this past year in places like the UK and Canada, the UAE, continuing to have our shows chart around the world. And as we continue to work on Voyescape, and excited to get into season 12 of Travel in 10. And we're doing something a little bit different, aren't we, today, Tim?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I'm excited about this show. It's a little different than our normal format, but there's nothing like a wonderful hotel. There's nothing like checking into a place that's not just a place to lay your head, but offers so much more. And this week we're going to talk about your 5 favorite hotels, my 5 favorite hotels that we stayed at in 2024, and that all of our listeners should think about booking for 2025.
So a curated list, a edited list that both of us have given strong consideration to, of places that were unique, places we would return back to again, the kind of unique standout locations. We've been both lucky to stay in some amazing luxury hotels around the world, and definitely a lot of luxury hotels that pop up on our list. Although I'm going to start my list with one that's not at the luxury end of the spectrum, a place that I stayed at just recently. So number 10 on our list, I guess, for 2025 places we would recommend people go stay. This was probably the most unique hotel and the most budget hotel I stayed at the past year, a place called City Hub in Copenhagen in Denmark. I think I was describing this to you, Tim, like if somebody had taken an iPod or a iPhone and made it into a hotel room, this would be it. They were micro, not quite capsule style hotels, but very, very small sort of rooms in these sort of almost shipping container type configuration that you were sleeping in, stacked on top of each other throughout the hotel. But a couple of things I really, really loved about this spot. It had a great location for exploring Copenhagen. Copenhagen, as we're going to talk about, or may have talked about already by the time this season airs, is a really expensive city. So it was great to find a hotel that was a little bit more on the affordable end of the spectrum. Here you could get rooms from $80-$90 a night. That had king beds. You're still in your own room, even though it is a micro room. It does have a Scandinavian spa down with a sauna, cold plunge that you can go experience while you're staying there as well as a ton of social areas as well that people gather, and was just a super cool place. So that is my one to kick off our list today. Number 10 of our favorites of 2024 and recommended for 2025 hotels.
Very cool. Very cool. I remember you texted me a photo of your room and you were staying there just recently. It looked super cool, a lot like a Japanese pod hotel, which I find completely fascinating, along with everything else about Japan. But so for my first one that I want to talk about, I stayed there last month, Fairmont in Rio de Janeiro. I've actually stayed at this hotel pre-renovation and post-renovation. They've had a beautiful renovation and reflagged it as a Fairmont. Used to be a Sofitel. Both times was an excellent stay. It's right at the intersection of Copacabana Beach and Ipanema Beach. So the two best beaches in Rio de Janeiro. And the room that I had, it had sweeping views all down the beach, all the way to Sugarloaf. So during the day, you'd have this scene of cariocas, the name for people from Rio, out enjoying the sun, and then the sunset, and then at night, just the twinkling lights like a necklace. It was so beautiful. They do a coffee experience that I did. So they contract with a local farm. Brazil, I believe, is the world's largest producer of coffee, and they had these 3 unique blends and a barista who was specially trained like a sommelier for coffee, and walks you through all the unique properties of these coffees, organic, hand-picked. And then they had this wonderful restaurant called Marine, where they cook, they have fish that are brought in by the local fishermen, literally, who park their boats on the beach in front of the hotel. They go down and they buy the fish from these guys, and then they cook the fish on a grill, on a wood-fired grill, and you eat, your beautiful fish meal looking out on the beach next to the pool. Just a truly special place. Just Rio contained in a single hotel. Amazing. What about you? What's your next one, David?
My next one, we're going now to the French Riviera, to the south of France, to a little town, an ancient town overlooking the French Riviera called Ise. This is up in the hills just above Monaco, to a wonderful property there that not only is one of my favorite hotels, but probably my favorite restaurant anywhere in the world, a Michelin-starred restaurant there, the Chevre d'Or. This is a historic property. You really could not ask for a better view of this, right on the cliffside in this ancient sort of walled city overlooking the French Riviera. A stunning restaurant that they've got there. But beyond that, the hotel itself is filled with these. You're walking into this ancient walled city and these classic rooms, all looking over the French Riviera coastside. One of the things this hotel is really known for is the celebrities that it attracts as well. Pretty much anyone you can think of has probably stayed here or dined here at some point when they're at the Cannes Film Festival or any of the many events that happen on the French Riviera throughout the year. people like Barack Obama. Apparently, Bono is a regular who goes there all the time. Taylor Swift. Every person who's ever played James Bond, I think, has been there. And you feel like you're in a James Bond movie when you are eating there. It is a very cool spot, very unique place, and Ease itself highly worth exploring. Somewhere that I would plan a trip around and highly recommend.
Fantastic, fantastic. Tell me, you mentioned Taylor Swift. Are you a Swiftie? I need to know this.
I don't mind a Taylor Swift song, but I'm not sure I would, pay the $5,000 for a concert ticket right now.
Right. Fair enough. My next one, I want to talk about the Kempinski Chirgan Palace in Istanbul. I mean, Istanbul is such a, as we all know, such a unique city. The Bosphorus, this strait that runs right through the middle of the city, and you've got Europe on one side, you've got Asia on the other side, and this hotel was built. Part of the hotel, the historic part of the hotel, was built as an actual palace for the Ottomans. So it was a royal palace right by the water, and a great restaurant, Michelin recognized restaurant, where they make Ottoman cuisine but updated. Again, looking out on the water. And my favorite thing to do was just to sit. I had this balcony and there was a pool and all that kind of stuff, but just to sit and watch the traffic, the ship traffic going through, cargo ships and party boats and ferries. It's a very, very busy waterway. And I'm fascinated by ships, and just to sit there and just watch the traffic out on the Bosphorus was incredible. They've had a recent renovation. Again, I've stayed there before and after renovation, and I mean, they've completely reinvented this hotel with some elevated Ottoman touches, callbacks to the Ottoman Empire, and again, just a beautiful hotel in an amazing city. So yeah.
And we talked a little bit about it in our last season of Travel Intent
Yes.
as well. So anybody
Yes.
who's actually thinking of going and staying at the hotel and experiencing it, we've got a whole episode, actually, I think 2 episodes where we talk about sort of things to see and do in Turkey. And going back in the archives, I also have a episode with Chris Christensen from the Amateur Traveler, I think, where he's talked a little bit about his favorite things to see and do in Turkey as well. So some great content if anyone's going to experience the hotel that they can check out as well.
Absolutely. One of my favorite episodes. So I encourage everyone to go back and listen to that one for a first or second time.
Well, my next favorite, as we go through our top hotels of the year and places for people to seek out this year, is going to be from the W chain of hotels. This is one of my favorite. A lot of people hate on W hotels. They are described often as a mix of sort of a nightclub and a hotel. I've always loved the W chain. It's been one of my favorites in locations around the world, although I have found their quality has maybe diminished a bit in some of their properties over the last few years. But this next one where we are at, I think, is definitely near the pinnacle of the chain and one of the coolest hotels we've stayed at anywhere in the world, the W Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi itself is a dynamic city, lot going on culturally, lot to see and do there. And this is on sort of an island not far from the airport, where there's a lot to see and do, some theme parks and other things throughout the island. But what makes the hotel itself so unique, it is the only hotel in the world that is built directly over an F1 racetrack, which doesn't sound like it would be super relaxing necessarily. But they're these stunning suites. They are very well soundproof, so that you won't be bothered by that at all. This is like the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, over the top sort of luxury. The architecture of the hotel is stunning. They've got great facilities, great rooftop pool. It is just such a unique, and the suites there. I mean, if you are a Marriott Bonvoy points collector, they do seem to be quite generous with their upgrades particularly for international guests who are coming in. We got extremely lucky where, I think we were paying about $200 a night, and we got upgraded to a suite that would probably go for normally over $10,000 a night. I mean, it was directly over the F1 track. It had multiple rooms. It had like a place for a DJ to set up. It was a very cool hotel. So definitely one of our unique stops of the year, and somewhere I would happily go back to.
That sounds amazing. Was the race happening when you were there? Probably not, right? But
It wasn't, but what looked like what was happening is you could also, as a guest or just someone who wants to come try it out, you can go drive F1 cars around the track as well. So there were a lot of people doing that, and we even saw. I can't say for sure this is accurate, but they looked like they were like unmanned F1 cars that they were doing some testing with, almost like drone cars on the track that they were racing with while we were there. So
wow,
that was very cool to see as well. So it got to, even though it wasn't a full on F1 race, you still get to experience some of that when you're staying at the hotel.
that sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. For my next one, I love the Four Seasons in Bora Bora. I mean, when you picture pure paradise, that's what this hotel is. I had an overwater villa looking back towards Mount Otamanu, which is this. When you see a picture of Bora Bora, that's what you see. It's this beautiful green, jagged peak that extinct volcano in the middle of the island. So one of my favorite things was just to sit in the pool. I'd had a long flight journey. I think I'd come all the way from Antarctica through to Bora Bora. It was one of the craziest long flights that I'd ever had, and just pure relaxation, pure paradise. You fly into the little airport there in Bora Bora. They pick you up in a boat and they take you out, and you arrive by boat at the hotel. And I'll just say briefly, one of the cool activities that they offer is an opportunity to do coral reforestation. So you can actually go out, strap on a snorkel, go with a marine biologist. They'll talk about the state of the reef there and actually take you out to help replant coral to regenerate the reef. So that's so you can feel like you're contributing a little bit, and you're staying at this absolutely stunning. I mean, the spa's absolutely amazing. The beach is amazing. Anyway, I can't say enough. It's a beautiful, beautiful hotel.
If that is not your number one, I'm very curious now to know what your number one is as we keep moving up this list, because to me, it doesn't get much better than that.
All will be
Aspirationally,
revealed soon.
and you'll say aspirationally, that is like I sailed through French Polynesia many years ago and only had like a day visit there, and probably right near the top of the list of places that I want to go back to. And aspirationally, that would be near the top of the list for me. So I'm curious to see where you go as we keep moving up the list here and getting better to. But for me, as we continue moving up the list of our favorites for the year and our favorite places for people to go explore in 2025, would be a place called Kuname Lodge. This is in South Africa at just adjacent to Kruger National Park, on a private exclusive game reserve. It is, this is really the sort of white glove experience where you are taken care of from the moment you arrive. You go out on multiple animal viewings throughout the day. I think we did, it's either 2 or 3 sort of safari drives each day that we were staying there. Beautiful boutique accommodations. It's only about, I'm going to say, less than 15 rooms at the lodge. Although there are a few other lodges on that same game reserve as well, but it's a massive sort of property that where they are doing their best to help conserve local wildlife. And we, certainly within our first 24 hours there, maybe even within our first few hours there, had already seen each of the big 5 that people sort of go on safari trips to see in South Africa. The staff were incredibly friendly. They also had activities like cooking classes, cultural experiences that you could do there. A really unique standout stay. And it was also, compared to a lot of the other luxury lodges in the area, I found at the price point was very reasonable for what you were getting there. So if somebody's thinking of doing a safari trip to South Africa or a safari trip in general, that would be a strong recommend for me in terms of places we've stayed in the last year. And another one we did an episode on earlier this year as well.
Absolutely. And let's stay in South Africa for my next one. And that was a fun episode too. So the hotel is called Kruger Shalati. And I think I love it so much because it combines two of my favorite things. One is trains. I love trains. I've done the Trans-Siberian and the Indian Pacific in Australia, and I've done a number of these epic train trips around the world. It's one of my favorite things, always has been, and African safaris. So it's inside Kruger National Park, and it is there was this train bridge that was there for decades, and not much happening with it. And so they built a hotel. They built these oversized train rail cars. They made them as rooms, these luxury suites, and it's right over the Sabi River. And I think my favorite thing about it is you can go sit in the pool. They have this pool that kind of hangs over the water, and you can actually, you talked about the big five. That of course is the big thing when you go on safari. I saw two of the big five while I sat in the pool. So you can, I saw elephants. I also saw Cape Buffalo, which is one of the big five, without leaving the pool. I mean, we saw all the big five on the safari drives. And then we also saw crocodiles. There were monkeys that would actually play in between the cars. So you'd go to dinner and you'd encounter these monkeys on the way. So you could feel like you're sleeping on a train car, but you're actually in the middle of one of the great safari destinations in the world. So Kruger Shalati, I love it. One of my favorites.
And thanks to your recommendations, and I mean, you talked about it when we recorded an episode on South Africa, that I had a chance to go spend some time there, and I went and checked it out as well. And also, like you, had a phenomenal experience there. We just had lunch there. We didn't stay at the hotel, but what a cool, unique, stunning property it is. A really standout place, and again, one of those types of places that, if I was planning a trip, that I would plan a trip around a stay there for sure. So we are now getting to number one for both of us, our favorite place that we stayed in the past year. How many countries do you think you made it to in the last year, Tim? It's certainly in the double digits, but
Yeah, I'd say probably in 2024, I was probably in maybe 20 countries, something like that.
that is impressive. Wow.
Yeah.
Because I probably did some of the most travel I've ever done in a year this past year. And I think I was up around 17 or 18 countries just in the last year. So both of us, we have seen a big chunk of the world. For both of us now, our absolute favorite places we stayed in last year. For me, it's one that we did 2 episodes on earlier this year. It was my first time going to the Maldives, a place that was, I think this is high on a lot of people's list for aspirational travel, and got to stay at a property that lives up to everything you would expect in that sort of idyllic paradise destination, a place called Kogi, Maldives. This was a short private plane ride, from the Malé International Airport, takes you to this private island resort where, virtually all the rooms are overwater bungalows overlooking some of the most crystal clear water you will find anywhere in the world. They've got a stunning house reef. This was, for me, this is what I always dreamed of, right? Being able to stay in an overwater bungalow, wake up in the morning, dive out of your room into crystal clear water, and spend the day in the water snorkeling and seeing an enormous variety of undersea life. And Kogi, Maldives delivered on every checkbox when it came to that. But it was also a really health and wellness focused resort as well. They had a great spa, great wellness programs. Definitely for me, the top of the list in terms of places where I stayed in the last year, and another one I would highly recommend if somebody's thinking of a honeymoon, a once in a lifetime type trip. That is a destination I would put high on the list.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was in the Maldives just once, but I actually stayed, and this is not my number one, but I stayed at Conrad for part of it, Fairmont and then Conrad. And Conrad is the place that has the underwater restaurant, and it also has the underwater suite, hotel suite. And I didn't actually sleep in the suite. I had champagne, I think, in the restaurant. They showed us the suite, and I thought, wouldn't that be interesting to spend the night in a suite that's surrounded by water? Anyway, you're absolutely right. I mean, the coral and the fish and everything in the Maldives is just so impressive. So yeah, and so I'm gonna go to my number one. I always say this is my favorite hotel in the world. I've stayed there many times prior to this year. This year, I think I may have stayed twice this year. Um, it is the Four Seasons in Prague. Prague, maybe my favorite city in the whole world. They call it the world's greatest outdoor museum because it was spared a lot of the bombing in the Second World War. So they have these buildings that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And the Four Seasons is right in the heart of it. It's right on the river, on the Vltava River or the Moldau in German. Views out to the Charles Bridge. This I think it's a 14th century bridge up to the Prague Castle. And I think one of the things I love about this hotel is they always have experiences. They're always kind of doing some different themes. So they have their own private boat, and I've done boat tours through the hidden corners of the river. I've gone glass blowing is a thing there. So I went and chatted with a glass blower. There's all these different experiences that they pair you up with. But I think in the hotel, I'm just going to say it was three different historic buildings. They built a lobby, so there's different wings. So every time you stay, it's a bit of a different experience. There's a Renaissance wing and there's a modern wing. But I think it all comes down to service. I mean, I think the thing that separates a great hotel from a truly impeccable hotel is the service, and so when you go back to your room at night, when they've done turn down, it's all the little details that they remember. So if your glasses look a little dirty, they'll leave a cloth. It says Four Seasons Prague next to your glasses. If uh, you your USB cable looks a little messy, they'll coil it up with a little Velcro strip. If you're using a boarding pass for your bookmark, which I do all the time, they'll replace that with an actual Four Seasons bookmark. And my favorite thing is I had this beat up Ziploc bag for my toiletries, because I travel with just a carry on. And they replaced it with a Four Seasons Prague Ziploc bag. And so every time I go back, I say, can you give me 5 more of these bags? Because they wear out. So I think it's just that anticipatory service that they think about the things that you need before you know that you need them. And so I love the Four Seasons Prague. It's got all those factors we talked about: history, location, service, and then certainly a number of experiences that make it stand out. So that's my last one.
Amazing. I have not been to Prague yet, so that is high on my list, and I would love to go check that out. That sounds like an amazing property. That is, as you say, that really does make a huge difference when those sort of highly personalized touches, and you don't get that a lot of, even at some of the top end of the luxury chains around the world. It's unique to find that sort of standout personalized service in that over the top way, and it really does make an impact when you get a chance to stay somewhere like that. Absolutely.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, they actually remember you. I mean, I'm only there at, usually maybe once a year, but the doorman says, "Oh, welcome back. You were here in March or whatever." I mean, whether I'm sure they have records of that, and maybe, but it is amazing. It's always a warm welcome, and I think that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. As you were making this list, I don't know if I had a bunch of ones that just didn't quite make the cut, but honorable mentions, I guess, and I'll just throw out very quickly a couple of them. One that I just stayed at last week, a place called Hotel 32 in Paris. This was a very affordable hotel. It's a chain of hotels out of France where they've got about eight different locations throughout the city. And one of the great things is your mini bar is included, but also there's like a happy hour at the hotel later in the day. And if you can't make it at your own hotel, you can go at any other chain hotels throughout Paris and go experience it. So that was cool to be able to do. And also it's just a really nice little boutique rooms, great location in the city, very affordable. So Hotel 32 in Paris was an honorable mention for me. And then one more I'll call out, which is here in my hometown in Vancouver, where I just went to their spa here earlier this week, the Hotel Georgia, which I hadn't been to for a long time. Hotel Georgia, they've done a stunning renovation, a historical property right in probably the most central location you could ask for in Vancouver, in the heart of the city. This great historic property that's been impeccably restored. And I would rate their spa as probably right now the top spa in Vancouver. When you go get spa treatments there, you get access to their gym, their pool, beautiful spa as well. So two honorable mentions for me. Anybody that just almost made it to the list for you there, Tim?
I've got three, and I'll just go through them really quick. Fairmont Banff Springs. I mean, this amazing castle in the Rockies, one of Canada's most haunted hotels, and I've written about that. I've gone around with the night watchman to hear ghost stories, and this is not something they offer officially, but I wrote a story about spending the wee hours in the morning going around with the security and hearing all the crazy ghost stories. Anyway, beautiful, beautiful hotel. I want to talk about the Langham in Sydney, Australia. Again, a relatively small hotel, beautiful suites, but again, it's that warm welcome and that personal service that sets it apart. Great location as well. And then we talked a little bit about France. I'm just going to say the Park Hyatt in Paris is again just a truly beautiful hotel. Has that truly French feel, luxury upscale location, all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna yeah. I mean, we could probably talk for the rest of the day about our favorite hotels. And more and more pop into mind as we continue to discuss. But I think every place that we've talked about today is just a truly exceptional
So
spot.
amazing properties. I would love if some of our listeners get a chance to go stay in any of these properties to hear your experiences. So please let us know if you either have been to some of these properties before, if you agree with our list of our top 10 places to go explore in 2025, or if you've got things that ones you think we've missed that you would recommend for 2025. And particularly would love to hear from those of you who go out and stay at some of these amazing properties and some of our favorites of the year. As usual, we have blown through our aspirational 10-minute limit that we try and stick to on a weekly basis.
Even more so than usual.
Even more so than usual. We're pushing 30 minutes here today, but I think we have some license given to our season opener and our top 10 hotels of the year. It would be tough to cram that into 10 minutes, so we took some creative license. Hopefully our listeners don't mind too much. And hopefully our listeners will also come back. And one thing that is hugely helpful is if you can give us a review on Apple Podcasts or even just a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and come back and check out all of our new range of podcasts that we are surfacing on voyescape.com. Tim and I have been really going out and seeking some of the best travel podcasts in the world and some of our favorite content creators and try to aggregate them together, bring them together for you. So when you're looking to explore new places, you can always find some of our guidance and advice from us and our other creators on the network about where to go next, how to travel further, how to travel better, and a lot of great content there on voyescape.com. You'll also notice if you go onto the site, we've got a destination section, so you can actually pick whatever city, country that you're looking to go to in the world, and we have many that we are adding on a daily basis, and a lot of the world already covered there. So you can almost always find some of our great audio content from us and our other hosts, hopefully helping inspire your travels as you get into 2025.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, David.
Thanks, Tim. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week.